we talk about the shareholders' equity, right? So briefly, we talk about the components, three components, right? Paid-in capital, retained earnings, and accumulated other comprehensive income, right? Those are three components. Okay. So, and now let's talk about a little background. Okay. So let's talk about the corporation. Okay, so these are the advantages of the corporations. Okay, so make sure you read by yourself. Okay, so it's easy to understand, right? So you read the textbook. Okay, and also you read the government the disadvantages. Okay, so let me just briefly explain the double taxation first. Okay, so double taxation is when corporation made a profit, so they're going to pay tax, right? Just like remember that chapter 16, right? We talked about the income tax, right? So so they're going to pay tax, okay, on whatever the profit they made, and then let's say they want to distribute the profit back to the owner. We call it dividends, okay? Then when owner receive the dividends, the owner needs to pay the tax again on the dividends they received as their some kind of income. Okay, so we call that double taxation. Okay, you can see we pay two times, right? So corporation pay times or one time tax, and then shareholders when they receive dividends also they're going to pay the tax. That's called that double taxation. Okay, so which is one of the disadvantages of corporation. Okay, so again, remaining powers, make sure you read by yourself. Okay, and then type of corporation. Here we have we have non-profit organizations, right? So not for profit corporations. So those one you can say like our university. Okay, it's the hospital, a lot of hospitals, right? So churches, so the Red Cross, right? So those are the non-profit organizations. Okay, just keep in mind accounting for those non-profit organizations are totally different. Okay, with what we talk about. Okay, so we talk in our class we only talk about the accounting for the profit oriented corporations. Okay, for non-profit we have a elective class. Okay, if you're interested, you want to choose that class after this 121B. Okay, so that's a non-profit organization. So we talk about the profit-oriented corporation. Okay, profit-oriented corporation have two kind of profit-oriented corporation. One is called a privately held, one's a public held. Okay, so private company, sometimes they'll call it private company, public company. Okay, so what is a private company? When you form a corporation, they're going to be private, right? So owned by several owners, right? So that's a privately held corporations. Okay, and then when the corporation grow, so it becomes bigger and bigger. Okay, it become more and more profitable. Then you can go to public, right? So it goes to called IPO. Okay, you heard of that IPO, right? So it goes to IPO, then become public traded company. Okay, so once you become public, then we call it publicly held. Okay, so once you become public traded company, so those stock gonna be listed on the stock exchange, right? For example, the Nasdaq, right? The New York Exchange. Okay, so then anyone want to become the owner of the corporation, you can just go to buy a certain amount of shares, right? So then you become the owner. Okay, so we call that public company. Okay, private company, public company. So that's so called. And we talk about accounting for those private company or public companies. Okay, uh, so those are type of corporation. And this part, talk about these are the special organizations called the hybrid organization. So S corporation, LLC, LLP. So those are the three special organizations. Those two very special companies. Okay, so the reason we have those special companies just trying to avoid the double taxation. We talk about double taxation for those three type of business. So they don't only pay tax at the company's level, they're going to pass through the tax to the owner level. Okay, they only pay tax once. Okay, so those are special corporations. So you may want to if you want to know the detail, you're gonna learn those in your taxation class. Okay, so these are special organizations. And then to form a corporation, we need to follow the law, right? The law called the Model Business Corporation Act. Okay, To form a corporation, you need to submit to the state government, not the federal government. Okay. So, for example, in California, you want to register your corporation in California, you need to submit it to the Sacramento, right? So, the state government. So, what are you going to submit? You're going to submit the application, right? You can fill out the application. You will also need to submit two documents. One is called the Articles of Incorporations. One they call the bylaw. Okay, bylaw. So these are two documents. Okay, you need to submit two documents. So in these two documents, you're gonna say, what's the name of the company, and who gonna be our original owners, how many shares we're gonna issue, what kind of business we're gonna do, right? The location of the business, etc. Okay, so those kind of things you're gonna put it on those documents. Okay, so you submit your application to the state government, and then usually takes maybe several days or a couple of weeks. Okay, so you're gonna receive approval, right? So once you receive approval, you can so you can issue shares. You can issue shares to those founders, right? Those original the owners. Okay, so issue shares. Okay, issue stock, and then those founders going to be your shareholders, right? We're going to be our owner of the corporation, of the companies. And then the owner of corporations gonna choose the directors. Okay, it's gonna choose the directors, board of directors. So and then the board of director gonna have a meetings, right? So and then you're gonna choose, who gonna be the chair of board of director, right? And then you're gonna appoint who's gonna be our CEOs, right? Who's gonna be our CFO, etc. And then you're gonna start your business. Okay. So to form a corporation is very easy. Okay, very easy. Um, so that's just briefly talk about that procedures. Okay, and then this slides talk about the rights. Okay, the fundamental rights of our shareholders. So just keep in mind the rights of shareholders. We talk about the common stock. Okay, not the preferred stock. Okay, so common stockholders have these rights. Okay, the first right, the right of vote. Okay, right to vote. For those very important issues, you need to have company needs to have a meetings, right? So the shareholders meetings, then you can vote, okay, on those important issues. Okay, so every shareholder has the right to vote. But of course, the weight, you have weight, right? The weight is based on how many shares you have, right? So if you have only a few shares, then your weight is very, very minimal. Okay. Um, so that's a right to vote. But you have right to vote. Okay. So then the second is what they call the right to share in profit when dividends are declared. Means when the company declared dividends, okay, then as the shareholders, you have right to receive the dividends. But of course, proportionally, right? Proportionally, depend on how many shares you receive. Okay. And the third one here called the preemptive rights. Okay, the preemptive right is the situation like, for example, we have a company, so this person owns 10% of the company, of the corporations, and then this company want to issue additional shares. Okay, want to issue additional shares. So when we issue additional shares, this person has right to purchase 10% of that additional shares, so that the total ownership gonna still maintain as 10%. So we call that preemptive right. Okay, preemptive right to protect the existing shareholders. So the last right here is that the right to share in distribution of assets of companies liquidated. So for some reason we need to close the business. Then what are we gonna do? You want to take care of your, pay off your employee, right? To pay off all of the liabilities, right? So then whatever left, it belongs to the existing owner. Okay, and then as the shareholders, you're gonna own, right? So you're gonna own these assets, of course, proportionally. Okay, proportionally. So that's the another rights. Okay, again, the rights here we talk about the rights of common stockholders. Okay, not preferred stockholders. And here's an additional concept. Okay, so here this chapter we have a lot of concepts, but I believe many of you already and you learn those parts already, right? So let's talk about these called the total authorized shares. Authorized shares are the maximum numbers of shares we can issue. Okay, we can issue. So the you remember at the beginning when we established the corporations, right? When we apply, submit the application. So you need to put in those two documents, right? In these two documents, you need to tell the government, right, how many shares you're going to issue. What's the maximum share you're going to issue? We call that authorized shares. Let's say you want in that document said we're going to issue up to 1 million shares, right? Not 1 million shares is the total authorized shares. Okay. But some shares you can issue immediately. Okay, some shares you can issue in the future. So those called the issued shares and unissued shares. Okay, unissued shares can be issued in the future. Okay, you don't have to issue all, let's say 1 million, 1 million shares. Okay, you can issue like 100,000 shares right now, and the rest of the 100,000 shares will be issued in the future. Okay, so those are called issued shares and issued shares. And among those issued shares, those issued shares and also owned by the shareholders are called outstanding shares. Those are outstanding shares. And some issued shares owned by the company, by the company itself. Okay, so we call that treasury shares. Okay, treasury shares happen what? Sometimes company purchase our own shares, okay, from the shareholders, okay, from the market. So then we keep those shares. Then in the future, we're going to resell it. So we call that treasury shares. Okay, treasury shares are those issued shares, right, but owned by this company itself. Okay. How about retired shares? Retired shares was issued shares, but company purchased back our own shares from the market, from other shareholders. We purchase back and then we cancel these shares. Those shares are canceled, okay, no longer exist. We call that retired shares. Because those shares no longer exist, it belongs to the unissued shares. Okay, it's not issued share anymore.
So do you know why the company need to do it?
Yeah, company can always purchase back their own shares, okay, for all different kind of reasons. Typical reason sometimes they want to push their earning per shares. They want to push that higher, okay, earning per shares. That's why they're gonna decrease the total issued shares like that. Okay, total outstanding shares. So so again, here, what is the total issue shares for this situation? What's the total authorized shares? The total here is authorized shares, right? That's the total big pie. So then we have outstanding shares are issue shares. Treasury shares are also issue shares. So total issue shares are those two, right? Total issue shares. The retired shares are not issue shares anymore. Okay, it's been canceled. It belongs to the unissued shares. That makes sense, everyone? Treasury shares and retired shares. You know the difference, right, between treasury shares and retired shares, right? So treasury retired shares both are situated when we purchase back our own shares, but treasury shares we keep those shares, okay, and we're gonna resell it in the future. But retired shares we cancel those shares, okay, those shares no longer exist. But we can issue that in the future. So that's why that shares just belong to this unissued shares categories. You guys good, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's just a lot of concept. Okay, so and then this concept talk about the par value. Okay, the par value concept. Okay, you familiar with that, right? So par value, company needs to assign some kind of dollar amounts, right, to per shares. Okay, so you can assign, let's say, $1 per shares, or $10 per shares, or 5 cents per shares, right? So so that's called the par value. Okay, so why company has par value? Because remember we talked about what company needs to submit application to each individual states, right? So let's say you want to, some states, okay, you want to register in some states, and those states require the par value. Then, when you submit your documents, you have to tell them, what is the par value. You have to assign some amounts, right, per shares, okay, for those states, if you apply for those states. But some states, they don't require, okay? So then when you submit your application to form a corporation, you don't need to tell them, the par value, okay? So then those going to be non-par value stock, okay, for some states, okay? Par value, non-par value. And remember, par value has no relationship to the market value, okay? So when you issue stock, usually we issue more than par value, okay? We issue more than par value. So then the total par value will be recognized, let's say, in the common stock. Then those additional amounts going to be recognized like additional paid-in capital. Okay, that's par value. And then we have a concept called legal capital. Legal capital is the total par value. Okay, so total par value is called the legal capital. Legal capital companies supposed to keep their legal capital. They cannot distribute their legal capital back to the owner, back to the shareholders. Okay, so that's the concept of par value and legal capital. And this one they talk about two kind of stock. Okay, so we have a common stock, right? We have a preferred stock. Okay, so common stock are the true owner. When we talk about the rights, so they have the voting rights. Okay, preferred stock has no voting rights. Okay, when we talk about the rights, we talk about the common stock rights. Okay, those are 4 rights, right, for the shareholders. So these are the common stock shareholders. Okay, preferred stock holders, they have a special rights. Okay, so their rights is what they're going to receive dividends. Okay, they're going to receive usually a fixed amount of dividends. They have priority to receive dividends. Okay, then the common stockholders. So in other words, if company issues dividends, they're going to issue dividend to preferred stockholder first. Then whatever left, then you're going to issue to common stockholders. Okay, preferred stockholders has priority to receive dividends. Okay, so we call it preferred stock. Preferred stock. Preferred stock is, we'll say preferred stock is another true owner. Preferred stockholders, another true owner. Common stockholders should be true owner. Okay, they're not true owner. They are like a hybrid, between common stock and the bondholders. Okay, they are hybrid. Okay, they're going to receive, usually they're going to receive fixed amount of dividends. So let's talk about the preferred stock dividends. Okay, preferred stock usually receive fixed amount of dividends. It's usually like a percentage of the par value. Okay, so fixed amount every year, they can receive fixed amount of dividends every year. And then remember, they have a priority to receive dividends. Okay, and they have 2 kind of preferred stock. Could be cumulative and non-cumulative. Cumulative, just keep in mind, company has no obligation to issue dividends, even to the preferred stockholders. Okay, even though we said, we talk. Let's say we're going to issue stock to prefer. We're going to issue dividends to preferred stock. Let's say 2% of dividends to preferred stock, but we don't have obligation to do that. Okay, sometimes for some reason, company don't issue dividends, and if a company don't issue dividend this year, then this year's dividends will be cumulative to the next year. So next year, when we pay dividends, we're going to take care of this year's dividends first. So that's called a cumulative preferred stock. And then similarly, now you can understand what is non-cumulative, right? If we don't issue dividend this year, next year when we issue dividends, we're going to forget about this year's dividends. Okay, so that's called a non-cumulative. And guess what? If you are the investor, which one you prefer? You prefer cumulative or non-cumulative? if you are the investor, okay, you want cumulative preferred stock, or you want to invest in non-cumulative preferred stock? What do you think? Anyone?
Cumulative.
You want to choose the cumulative or choose non-cumulative?
I don't know.
Anyone? What do you think?
Cumulative.
Yeah, cumulative, right? It should be, right? Because what? Because you, as an investor, if you choose non-cumulative, guess what? This year the company don't issue dividends, then that's it, right? Next year don't issue dividend, that's it. Okay, so you could end up with never going to receive dividends. Okay, right? But the cumulative is different, right? Cumulative, if you don't issue this dividend, then next you're gonna issue that this year dividend next year, right? So you're gonna be cumulative, okay, at least, right? And this can protect yourself, right? Cumulative. So so that is why in reality most of the preferred stock are cumulative, okay? So usually companies don't issue non-cumulative preferred stock, because if you issue that, probably no one gonna purchase, okay? No one gonna invest our preferred stock. And another concept called participating, okay? Participating. So participating means, remember, preferred stock has priority to receive dividends first, right? We receive dividends first, and then whatever left, then you're going to issue to the common stockholder. Okay, so we have priority to receive dividends. So let's say we receive dividends at the preferred stock, and then the company still have additional cash. Now those additional cash will be used to pay dividends to the common stock, right? That's the second level. And then when company pay to the common stockholders, preferred stockholders also going to receive some additional dividends. We call that participating. Okay. So when we say participating, means preferred stock going to receive 2 times dividends, right? So the preferred stock could partially participate or fully participating or non-participating at all. Okay, non-participating means you only receive dividends once. Okay, so that's called participating. Okay, and then back to the cumulative, okay, the concept. Okay, so again, a lot of concept here. So then we're gonna, after this, we're gonna talk about some example. Okay, so let's go back to the cumulative. Okay, cumulative, for some reason, if this is a cumulative preferred stock, for some reason we don't issue stock this year, so those unpaid dividends is called dividends in arrear. Okay, those unpaid dividends is called the dividend in arrear. So dividend in arrear will be paid next year, right? Will be considered next year first. Okay, so they have priority, dividend in arrear. Okay, next year.